First, I'd like to say thank you to my new friend who recommended jazz hands that got me up here, so thank you.
We didn't even see your hands.
Well, it worked for me.
Why? What did the jazz hands mean?
I was just excited. I was feeling good. There you go.
It gave you stronger expectation.
Absolutely.
And when your expectation is in that place, then whatever it takes, yeah?
Absolutely. Also, my dad's a big fan of this, so I don't know if you recognize me, but he goes to like all your cruises. So, James Parker, he's loves this stuff. And now my question is, so it's a little bit outside of the normal, how do I make myself feel better question, although the end result would be that.
Well, if it were a normal, how do I make myself feel better question, our work would be really easy. That's not the question most people are asking, though. How can I get the car? How can I get the girl? How can I get...
That's because it seems that people are confused about what they think they want is how they... If I had money, then I could feel free, versus if I could feel free, I could just feel free.
You're exactly right.
So it's a little bit of backwards thinking and not understanding that what they want isn't what they want. It's what they... Which you say all the time.
We agree. Your dad should go to your seminar.
I know. My question is a little bit about the subtlety, I guess, of existence in itself. And when you talk about jokingly the bleeding edge versus the leading edge, and you talk about us choosing to come into this physical reality, my question about that is, and I know it seems like, and it makes sense, to steer people back towards not thinking about things that really don't have a lot of meaning here in this life, or should be here.
There's nothing off limits. We're happy to talk with any of you about anything you want to talk about.
So for me, it seems like knowing if I choose to come here, right,
yes,
to be physical, to
yes,
do this, knowing I'm assuming some state of the world, or the historic state of the world, that there's a good chance that contrast and I might get stuck in step one. Seems like a lot of people do. And I'm wondering that then it seems like contrast is the really kind of the end.
We just want to stick something in. None of you expected that you'd get stuck there, because all of you then knew about your guidance system. And all of you then were resistance free. From your non-physical perspective, you knew contrast would serve you, but you didn't intend to get stuck. We're not saying that there aren't a lot of stuck people, but that was not your intention coming in.
It just seems like I would, based on the odds of looking at human history, there's a good chance I might get stuck. Anyway, so that's one question is...
Not permanently stuck, however,
sure,
because all of you knew you would croak and then you'd be
right,
unstuck.
And I do think that sometimes, even from our own limited perspective, our own lives, I mean, we look at other people's problems and we think, oh, that's not a big deal. We remember the problems that we had in high school, and they're not our problems anymore. So yeah, from a broader perspective, there's almost nothing that could happen here in 100 years that can be that significant, if in fact we are immortal beings. So I can understand how, even if you got it all wrong, you're like, it's like a video game, I got it all wrong, I can just have my next life and keep trying. But I guess my question is, when you talk about
We've never known anyone that not only didn't get it all wrong, we've never known anyone that got it wrong at all. So you don't need to hold out for a next life to make it better. You could just in this life perceive yourself as the right being that you are. That's as wrong as it gets, not knowing how right you are.
Fair enough. I think right and wrong maybe is relative anyway. So I'll try to make my question more clear. It seems to me that there is a little bit of almost like a treadmill-like experience of existence, where I want this thing, and I want to feel
We just want to say to you, we want to hear every word you have to say, but we want you to think of the treadmill as a pleasurable thing, even if it lasts forever. It's not going to, but that treadmill thing,
sure,
if there's pleasure in the moment of the treadmill, then what's the problem?
I think then this is where I've gotten to my place, that if that's the best I can do, I'm going to make
But we know you're reaching for something.
Yes, I am.
And if we would be quiet, maybe you would get there.
Okay. But I'm on the treadmill, you know what I mean?
So the treadmill feels like what? We're going to describe it, and if this feels like the treadmill, then we will have a conversation. So here you are. You know what you don't want, you know what you do want. You've launched the rocket. Now you've got choices. So let's say you care about feeling good, and so you focus on it in a way that you do, so you close that gap, and you accomplish whatever it was that that desire was. You also accomplish a whole new set of contrasting experiences, so it starts over again, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then again. Is that the treadmill that you're describing?
Yes.
So when you integrate into that treadmill the pleasure of the discovery of the new desire, and the pleasure of the accomplishing of your alignment, and the pleasure of the awareness that you have accomplished it, and then the pleasure of the manifestation that is evidence that you have. So wouldn't a never-ending pleasurable treadmill be a pretty good way to live eternity?
Yes, absolutely. And I think part of it really for me is just the idea that I want it to mean something besides my own pleasure is the idea.
But you see, it does. But here's the thing. It means everything that the contrast caused you to want. It means more food for starving children. It means more love for those who feel unloved. But you've got to enjoy the journey, or you can't tap into the awesome power that can then inspire or influence that. We're telling you that the pleasure is the means to your end. We're not quibbling with your ends. You can be as altruistic, you can be as life-saving, you can be of as much value to this world. You just can't do it unless you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. That's all.
I don't mean to be meaningful to others. I think that's sort of the trap. It's like the idea of wanting to help someone, because if I could help them and prove that I can help them, then really I'm helping myself. I'll feel better because there's evidence.
You want it
that
to be meaningful to you?
What I guess I'm asking is there meaning outside of, it just seems like whether the nature of the universe is we're energy and we're expanding, and there's really, for better or for worse, you might as well enjoy the ride kind of thing, you know?
Well,
or is there a deeper meaning from your perspective?
Yes, but here it is. There isn't anything that anyone wants that is for any other reason that they will feel good in the having of it. If you see someone experiencing a plight and you wish for relief.
Sure, I get it.
We're having a conversation about how to identify the bigness or smallness or greatness of desires.
I guess, no, just for me, so it seems like if you take this life, right?
Are you annoyed by knowing that you can never get it done?
Somewhat, not annoyed. I wouldn't say annoyed. There is.
Well, that's where the treadmill thing comes from.
So no matter, and again with the.
But what's the advantage of getting it done and it being over to being enjoying the journey? In other words, if you can make that distinction for us.
No, this isn't necessarily a full question of dissatisfaction. This is me trying to clarify more of the.
And we appreciate every bit of it. And you are representing a whole lot of people. You've pinpointed the most significant obstacle, if there is one, that we must overcome in assisting people in understanding the value of what we know about the universe. Because people, as a general rule, believe that they are here to prove some sort of worthiness. And it's a little upending when we say to them, there's no one requesting your worthiness. And it's like, well, then who am I performing for? Well, for your own satisfaction. Yikes, that isn't enough. I liked it better when it was God and all of my eternity depended on it. It felt more like doing something about it when it was a bigger quest. But really, just for my pleasure, that doesn't seem enough. And yet, as eternal beings, you got to make that enough.
Well, either way it is. I mean, that's the reality. What is, I get that.
But let's take it beyond that, because you're making good points. And so are we. And they're not different points. Let's take it a little further. Let's acknowledge that you get this, you understand it, you do. We can hear it from you and feel it from you. And that you are more and more consistently tuning in, and you have found an easier path to tuning in once you started caring about how you feel, because that made you aware of your guidance. So you figured out earlier which movie you were watching and what influence you were under. So you got control of the momentum of your life. You're not countering your positive momentum with negative momentum. You're mostly on a positive momentum track, which means big things are happening in your world. Now, when a convergence happens, it's not just that this idea came together for you. It's several ideas are culminating all at the same moment, and your sense of being blessed, number one, and your sense of your personal awesomeness, number two, and your sense of the universal cooperation, number three, and your sense of all is well in the universe, number four. In other words, there's an energy and a synergy and an exponential thing that happens that is indescribable. But when you're living it, you know it. And that's when Esther says, oh, I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. I love this moment. You just cannot sometimes even comprehend the bigness of what you've accomplished because you've stayed longer in non-resistant thought. Until you're really there, it's sort of like a treadmill. But when you're there, it's not like a treadmill, it's like a rocket ship. It's the difference between a firecracker and an atomic bomb. And you will feel the awesomeness of that. You will feel your influence in the world. You will feel your influence for good in the world. You will realize that there isn't anything that you can focus on worldwide that you can't improve just by your gaze. You can feel yourself making a difference, not getting into the weeds and quibbling with those who don't understand anything about true power, but practicing your true power until your power of influence is in that place of awesomeness where you are using the energy that creates worlds to flow through you and direct the things that you care about, building empires and changing lives and uplifting nations and helping the world be a better place. This is not mediocrity. This is awesomeness that you're about, you see. It's just that sometimes you feel a little upended when you realize the goal that you thought was the goal isn't the most beneficial goal.
Well, early on, I never thought there was a goal, so it wasn't that I was confused about that.
You've been altruistic from the moment you hit the ground here. You've cared about being an uplifter right from the get-go. You have had those big thoughts and those big intentions.
True. No, I'm not denying that. I think what I mean by that is I am not disappointed that there isn't some greater meaning, that there isn't God. There was a big part of me that wanted the meaning to come from an external source versus an internal source. So there's that. And I really do, I understand and resonate.
For most people, their inner being is external.
Very good.
Because they're not in sync with it. So it's something out there somewhere else. It is. It's external. And the people around them are so much more available. So love me, love me, love me, people. And I'll stand on my head so that you will. But oh, when you start letting it be this cooperative thing that you've got going.
And I do absolutely understand what you're talking about, and I think the only thing I really wanted to clear up for me was this, because mostly it seems the conversation is the same. It's Abraham, I have all these things and I believe in everything he's saying, but when it comes to this issue, I just like to pretend that something's different and maybe you could fix me. But I do, when you trust your feeling,
what?
When you trust your feeling.
We haven't had any of that conversation today, not one little bit of it. Today, we've been out here on the leading edge. Today we've been talking about the laws of the universe and what it feels like when you're in alignment. We haven't been solving issues. We've been connecting with resources.
Got it. And I want to just say that
we are not argumentative with you. We are appreciating every word you speak.
Well, how can you not be? That's what we all are. Even when you don't think you are, that's what you are anyway. So I understand that you know, all the negative really
We just want you to plug your vacuum in before you try to suck the dirt out of the floor. A whole lot of people going through the motions, running their vacuum cleaner all over the place, but they didn't plug it in, and so they're leaving tracks, but that's about all. But when you plug that thing in, that sucker, when you plug that sucker in,
I think as long as, for me, that's the big thing for me, was understanding that I do feel very authentically that I'm capable of plugging the vacuum in, not having the vacuum, having a dirty floor, having a non-dirty floor, having no floor at all, and finding a way to feel good. And I feel like part of that for me was I feel like I really do have it. And there
we
is.
think so too. Have we discovered together anything?
I think, like, my question was, does it matter anyway? And the answer is yes. So, and then yes, you have answered my question enough for me, so we can allow some other people to talk up here. So I have appreciated this time. And thank you.
We want to say something to you. We want to say that being as you are is an advantage to every person who meets you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day.